Gabriella Wright, Mrs. Wright, Lady Wright. And yeah, well, it's amazing having you back to the World
Thank
Happiness
you so much.
Fest.
Thank
Now this time, because we are celebrating World Happiness Week.
you.
What a beautiful week, right?
Oh
Uh,
my goodness, we need this. We've been needing this all year already.
it's so much going on for so many of us. So why don't we? I mean, of course, co-founder of the Never Alone Foundation, and I'm doing so much
Thank you. Thank you.
into together with the Chopra Foundation and Deepak Chopra and Punaka and the whole team on mental health, bringing awareness to mental health. And why don't we go jump right away
Yes.
into the topic of the week, which is suffering
Mm.
and how we can deal with suffering. So, have a first question, an easy one.
Yes.
Can we be free from suffering?
Now that's a really good question because I almost want to start from I would say a philosophical point of view. You know, can we be free from suffering? But what is suffering, right? You know, but let's establish what that is. And I'd like to say suffering is a recurring experience of entrapment, and a recurring experience of not being able to self express, to not being fully self expressed, and to not being heard. Now, sometimes that can be translated into physical experience of suffering, pain, recurring aches, illness, chronic inflammation. That can be experienced in the mind, chronic thoughts, anxiety, panic attacks that are just recurring. It's just like this deep hum, this deep weight that we don't know what it is, but we know we've equated it to suffering. And then there's existential suffering. Well, what is the unknown? I don't know, so I'm suffering. I don't know the answer, so I experience the unknown as suffering. Or there's also the suffering that we see in the world, the suffering that is related, for example, to the pandemic. We've all experienced a collective suffering, a collective experience of grief, loss of lives, loss of our habits, loss of human contact. All this is an experience of suffering. And then there's the suffering of that we've always experienced, which is war and peace. We look at war, suffering, you know, loss of lives due to ignorant or conscious choices, quote unquote. So suffering is all around, right? Suffering is just here. Um, the whole point of suffering is to be free from it. I think that we wouldn't experience suffering if there wasn't a way to be free. Otherwise, what's the point? I just want to break it down very simply. What's the point? If we're experiencing something so recurrent, we need to break free. So we as human beings need to break free of our mind. We need to break free physically from things that are pulling us down. We need to break free from the story of humanity as it is now. And we need to break free of our concepts that can sometimes confine who we are. And who we are as a human being will lead us to our true nature, which is ultimate joy. And ultimate joy and the experience of joy translates into beautiful experiences of one another through the translation of happiness. You know, so it's an important question. You know, what is suffering? And it's an important question to ask oneself, because if you start with the question, the mind, you will automatically start experiencing in the world, in the collective mental space that we all share, the answer. We are the reflection of one another in this quest for happiness, in this quest for ultimate freedom. We can only find the answer in who I'm looking at. For example, when I look at you, Luis. You know, you have the World Happiness Week in your background and you're beaming. I mean, literally, you have a beaming embodiment of joy. And I can see that. And so the answers lie in one another. There are tools to awaken our freedom so that we get out. And that's all of the work, for example, to tie it back down to what we're doing at the Never Alone Initiative and the Chopra Foundation. Right now, we're developing not only tools of mental hygiene for our mental health initiative, but we're also taking it from another angle. We're looking at what freedom from suffering means. What does it really mean? How can we go beyond this to become beacons, vectors of freedom so that we can transform our own communities? So this is very practical now. We're creating a course. We have different modules. And one of the first modules that will be released soon in April is about peace is the way and conscious communication as a first vector to freedom from suffering. And so once we experience these modules and go through the training, you can go back into your own family, into your own community, wherever you are in the world, and become the touchstone of transformation. So they can be the jump into happiness. Because ultimately, as you know, Luis, and Deepak talks about this a lot, it's really a mindset as well. You know, that there is, you know, mental health issues, there's mental health perception, but then there's the mental space, right? And in the mental space, we need to be able to shift our perception so that we can help one another shift. It's one balances out the other, and we're all connected. And it's in this interconnectedness, which is why I love World Happiness Week, because we're putting a focus on it. So we're putting a focus on, this is the touchstone of transformation right now. World Happiness Week. How can I embody this? How can I experience my freedom? How can I be this joyous self that I am? And I will be triggered by the different experiences I have. And that's why we create the mental space and we co-create reality together. And we're co-creating a better future and a legacy for our children's children. You know, and it's with this perception that we're able to dive not only into ourselves, but into deep, deep humanity, the existential freedom from suffering. So I could go on for a lot for this, sorry. But
Okay, so let's breathe. And as you breathe, I'm gonna ask you the second one. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Something that we truly focus as part of the World Happiness Foundation is realizing a world with freedom, consciousness, and happiness for all. Yes. So the convergence of consciousness, freedom, and happiness is where we think that we can really mitigate in many ways suffering. So why don't we keep a bit the focus on freedom from suffering? And I ask you about your personal experience. How do you get free from suffering? How do you do it? Do you still suffer a lot? What do you do when you suffer?
Well, I think there are two levels to this. I still suffer, you know, there's no doubt about that, but they become fleeting experiences. It doesn't become a state of being. I don't wake up and I go, I'm suffering today. I wake up and I say, I'm alive. Do I still have those thoughts from yesterday? Do I still feel heavy? And if the answer is yes, I was like, okay. So then I'm still in that, you know, frequency. But I realize that it's a frequency, so it's a pattern of thought. So to break the thought, what do? Remedies, immediate remedies. I start either, you know, reciting a mantra or an affirmation, you know, mantra, affirmation, or very practical, I look in the mirror and I look at myself and I look at my eyes and I say, who am I? And then what do we want to say spontaneously? We don't want to dig ourselves a grave. not in the morning. You know, we want to, you know, I'm light, I'm love. And even if, and you just start innerly processing this. And as you look in the mirror, your eyes are reflecting the light that you see. You know, the sun, the light, the photons, the luminous. So you start experiencing yourself as light. And as I look, I just experience a smile in my chest, in my face, my head, in my senses. And it just literally, you're forcing the smile to be in all of your body. And that's a very quick fix. And you have to spend that time, because if we can't commit not even 1 minute to who we are in the morning, then you know that the rest of the day will be that memory of heaviness that you woke up with. Suffering is a memory. That's what it is. And if we cut the memory, then we're free. But sometimes the memory is very, very strong. So you have to use remedies, techniques. Meditation, as I've told you before, Luis, has been my savior. It's been now 20 years. And I also teach meditation, but before becoming a teacher, you become the experiencer, and you realize on your own self that the layers of memory are not pulling you down anymore. You become free, literally. That's what we're talking, the concept of freedom. So yes, I still suffer, but it's not an embedded suffering. It doesn't cling on to me. It's not shaping my body. It's not shaping my mind. It hurts. I mean, things hurt, but I'm not saying that things aren't supposed to hurt. It's just an experience in time that I choose to not hold on for. You know, it's a choice.
It's definitely a choice. What do you do with the memory that you have in your body? Because sometimes those memories are not just thoughts or thinking. Actually, they are part of our ancestors somehow.
Yes.
We even have that memory in our genes, and we know through epigenetics that somehow we can change behavior, but a lot of that is in our subconscious. Do you have a special techniques to go into your subconscious and work around that?
Yes, I do. Now, first of all, very simple. I close my eyes and I see where my pain is located in my body. If I think of something particularly traumatic, it could be a conversation with someone that went very sour. It could be a traumatic event in the past that has shaped your life. It could be grief, losing someone you love. And generally, when you have that image in your mind, it occurs in the body, because it's the same process. The mind and the body is the same process. So when you find it and locate it, just start noticing the limits, the contour of it. Generally, it's around the chest, because everything to do with an experience that is very emotionally, it's always connected to the heart. So just focus on that area and just, you know, sit in it and see where the pull is, where the tug is, where the tightness is. And obviously breathing into it. And when you breathe in, you breathe through your nose. And when you breathe out, visualize that, this is actually a Tibetan technique, visualize that what you're breathing out is gray matter. And you're just, you know, breathing it out. And you do this a couple of times a day, you know, just to you tune into your body. Because when you tune into your body, you tune into your focal awareness of this spot. Another thing that I add on to this, because sometimes it's tugging, right? And it takes time. It takes time to build this body. It takes time to disassemble it, you know, but we have to be patient. Then there's another technique. You focus on this, the pain, and then you take your awareness to the contour of your body. And you realize that it's just a little tip of the iceberg, or a little speck on your body. And when you bring your awareness to the contour of your body and to around the space that you're in, the sounds that you're hearing, you know, the silence around, and you focus on that, and then you come back to that spot, you realize that it's much lesser because it's dissolved into the space that you focused your awareness on. And then you realize that actually all of this is awareness and all of this is my body. And when you go beyond your body, the peaks of suffering, of pain, tension in your body start to dissolve slowly. So it's a mind-body technique. It's also tantric technique, but it's also a way to get in tune with your body and not be disconnected. There's also other things, I'm sure you know, you have many specialists, but you know, Qigong is a great way to move the energy and focus the consciousness in the body. And I've been practicing Qigong forever now. So that's really, really helps me. So it's you know, focused awareness, movement, and kindness, ultimate kindness. You know, there is no time, so be patient, you know.
It's amazing. I mean, so it's so beautiful listening and seeing you embodying so much everything that you say. When did it happen? I mean, were you born with this gift?
No.
So
No.
what do you do? I mean, can you tell us a bit for normal people?
Okay, I'm going to explain very, very briefly.
What do we do? Yes.
Understand the why and the how. So I had a great childhood. My childhood was full of enchantment. Like literally, I was brought up with my father, an artist, also very intrigued with science. I wasn't allowed to watch TV until the age of 12, and if I was, it had to be David Attenborough. You know, I love him. I'm still a huge fan. So so I was always enchanted, and my parents brought me up in the sense that I had to be, in French, émerveillé. I love that word, émerveillé, meaning really looking at the world through the eyes of innocence and wonder. And I think that helped me establish that happiness is something that you cultivate. And I didn't know it needed to be cultivated because it was my way of living through my parents. So I didn't have any trauma. It was when I was 18 that trauma instilled in my life through an exterior factor that had nothing to do with my family. And I was unfortunately kidnapped and abused sexually, and I managed to escape. And that was when my life went from sunlight to extreme darkness. And I had no idea what to do because I could see the pain on my parents' face. I could see the suffering. And I was like, I don't want to see them suffer because of me. And I don't even understand how to get out of this myself. And so I decided to go on the other side of the world, literally travel, because I thought that pain was a geolocalized space and that I would leave that space. Obviously, I get to the other side of the world, realize, which happened to be New Zealand, obviously didn't work. You know, I was still in pain. Suffering was still inherent. I wasn't able to see the sun or the sky like I used to. I wasn't able to experience a smile. And I was sad about that. I was sad that I couldn't genuinely smile. And that was making me sadder. So it was a horrible thing because I said, I want to be the girl I was before. And now this has happened to me and I can't remember who I was. I have a faint memory of who I was, but I want to be that girl again. And so those were the questions that led me to my healing. And ultimately, one thing led to another where there was a local newspaper saying, free your mind, body, and spirit. And I said, I don't know what that means, but I need to feel free. Literally what we were talking about. And I called this number and it was a Chinese lady on the other side of the phone. And she said, no, it's okay. You can come for free. It's okay. And I was like, okay, but I don't really understand what this is. And ultimately it was a Qigong class. based in meditation. And I arrived, and it was in a central park, and all these strangers and a Chinese teacher sitting literally under a tree. I thought it was a joke. I was like, okay, but I was a bit maybe there's a hidden camera here. But ultimately, I started sitting with him, and it really started shifting my perception of myself. And it happened without him saying anything to me. That's what was amazing. He couldn't speak English. I still don't speak Chinese. And we had this transmission that was just by his presence, which was meditative. I was copying him because I had nothing else to do. And I sat there, and I was still experiencing an inner shift. And I did that every day for 3 months. And then I was able to find my smile again, confidence, walk in the street alone again, use a phone again. I mean, we have PTSD symptoms that have so many different, I would say, shapes and forms. But ultimately, the space that was created in between the recurring suffering of thoughts and memory, it was the space, so let's use it as an image, because I have the sky here, that the thoughts and the memory and the suffering were like really deep clouds. Like, imagine being in a storm, but every day you wake up and your head is heavy, your body is heavy. You don't want to smile when you see a kid running down the street. You know, you don't want to, you're not triggered. But then all of a sudden, the space that I was able to experience through that meditation allowed me to finally see a slight patch of blue, and that gave me hope in my mind. There was space. And then that's what I hung on to. I held on to that space of blue. And that blue sky, which, you know, symbolically in my thoughts was just breathing again and smiling again and not crying so much. I was holding on to that. And then I realized that was the way from freedom, you know, to freedom.
Wow. I love it. Amazing. But you know, now you are light.
Yes.
and now you, I mean, just by listening, I mean, now you are light, and you are going to be light for so many people. So I feel that now you're a healer. You know that, right?
Yes. Well, I'm still very moved by it. So I still experience emotions because it's so lovely to be grateful. You know, gratitude. Gratitude is also a pathway to happiness. You know?
Wow. So I'm so excited to know that we are going to be packaging your light.
Yes.
Into this free from suffering course.
Yes, I'm so excited.
And then everybody's going to be getting access to that wisdom, because I mean, it is needed now, but it's going to have an impact. I already see that. So thank you so much, Gabriella. It's amazing what you're doing. Do you have a final tip for somebody who doesn't see that light yet?
A final tip someone who doesn't feel that light. Believe in magic. Believe in magic. I could be the normal thing, like everyone's going to say everything is impermanent. You know, Dalai Lama says it, my teachers say it. But you know what? Scratch that. Believe in magic. Believe in the miracle happening now. Quick change, deep transformation.
So I'm a believer. I believe in magic.
I do too.
So please, everybody, believe in the magic. This is the key. Thank you again, Gabriella. You're amazing.
Thank you so much, Luis. You're just the light in our world. I always love exchanging with you. I can't wait to hug you.
Very soon.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again, Gabriella, and keep being light. I love it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for you, and thank you for everything that you're doing for congregating all these amazing minds and creating the community. We need this. The world needs this. So
Thank
it's
you.
a wonderful place.